What is going on, prosperity practitioner Brandon Handley here, the voice of a generation. Hope you're having a fantastic day, the most amazing day of your life. Let's all remember that we have lived our entire lives for this moment. If you're hearing me right now, then you've lived your entire life for this moment. It's been worth it. Hey, so one of the things I realized is that I don't believe that I've done a proper introduction on this podcast. And you're like, who's this dude who's just jumping on and, quoting quotes and digging into quotes and talking prosperity? Got no idea about this fella. Got no idea where this guy's coming from. So I feel like I should let you know a little bit about myself. First and foremost, I am a father and I am a husband. I'm a family man, this is something that's been near and dear to my heart, and this is also what I started off doing in the public scene, public eye, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it in the social media podcast realm. I created a podcast called Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. And I recently heard a gentleman say, even if you do the wrong things for the right reasons, that's okay. And that's exactly how I started off my first podcast. I was like, hey, this is going to be a money-making thing. I'm going to be doing all this. And, you know how it is, man. Look, everybody jumps into it, and they think that it's going to be right around the turn of a corner, and boom, rags to riches overnight. And while there are some people out there who that does work for in terms of monetary gain, what I feel like I gained out of the creation of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, the Fatherhood for the Rest of Us group, I created many, many, many great connections. I attended great events. I met great people. I came across a different way of living and appreciating life, and it really led me into this prosperity practice. Through Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, I didn't have to, but I was not able to, personally, say some of the stuff I was saying, but not really be living it. And I'm sure that makes sense to a lot of us, where sometimes we say these things, and that's not really what we're doing. And then sooner or later, if you keep repeating it, it became like affirmations. I kept repeating some of the stuff that I was saying, and I had to do it. My body had to respond to that. I didn't have a choice. I kept saying it, and I was like, my body's like, well, you keep saying these things, saying them out loud. You're not even just saying it out loud. You're amplifying it. You're saying it on a podcast. You're sending it out to the universe. You're putting it on the internet, and it's going to billions of people. The way that you're saying what you're doing has got to line up. That's what my body said. I didn't have a choice. I did not have a choice in the matter. Now, I did have a choice in the materials that I was studying. I had a choice in the materials that I was sharing. And I had a choice in the way that, that was showing up in my life. And it was showing up. It was showing up in my life in a big way. In the way that a lot of these, a lot of these people that I reference will say. Wayne Dyer is one of them that, comes to mind first and foremost. And when he says, when you change the way you see things will change. And gosh, it's so true. It's so true. And again, this is all, I'm sharing stuff that I've gone through. I'm sharing stuff that is real. And this, if I take the stuff that has been said in Think and Grow Rich, if I take the stuff in Abraham Hicks, if I take the stuff that Joe Dispenza, if I take the stuff that Bob Proctor is saying, and if I go back and if I apply this to my life, and if I look for where all of these things line up, I have no choice but to see that is true for me. And since that has been the case for me, I felt that I could serve more people outside of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. It became less of, wow, the journey from who I was into who it was I wanted to be became true in Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, okay? And, what happened, though, is I realized that I could serve a greater community, a greater good, as it were, with some of these other things. I have some other talents outside of simply being able to, and abilities simply outside of being able to, do these audios and share them to fathers. And that's what led to the creation of the prosperity practice. I said, you know what? Essentially, all we're doing is reprogramming ourselves and programming ourselves in so many different ways. And, that's what it is when we develop habits. We're reprogramming ourselves. If I could take this prosperity program that, and this one-day thing that Abraham Hicks had talked about once, and if I could create a program that was automated, that if somebody that really wanted to put the work into and wanted to change their lives for the better and wanted to see more prosperity in their lives, that I could do this and I could share this with others. And that's what happened. That's why we're where we are today. And then I said to myself, well, what if somebody wants to take this further? What if somebody wants to apply prosperity in different areas of their lives? And what if they want to go further with it? And I said, let's make it open to more people. There's value. There's like tremendous. I can't put a dollar value on what's happened to me. I can tell you that I spent probably around 20 grand or so in coaches and coaching. Is that the process that did it for me? It is. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. And if that's valuable to you, changing your life in such a they call them transformation coaches. They call it, being a transformational coach. I call it being a prosperity coach. Do you have a prosperous life? Do you have the life that you want? That's the question you got to ask. Do you have a good life? Maybe. I have a great life. I'm happy with it. Do I have everything that I want? I think I have most of the things that I want, and I still work to get the things that I want and make those transitions and make that a thing in my life. But I have so many things in my life that I'm grateful for, and I've got a life that's so, I'm blessed, right? And a lot of what is in my life, everything is in my life is there because of me, right? When you take 100% responsibility for who you are, and again, this is all stuff that I learned along the way. Maybe you're already there. Maybe you already know, man. Maybe you can just give a hallelujah and be like, that's it. That's the stuff. But it took me a while to get there, and I'm happy that I'm finally there. And since I'm finally there, I'm making use of it, and I'm sharing what it is that I've gone through and or am going through. And for me, one of those things right now is really to kind of like share these quotes and go through them, and really explore them to another level, explore them from a different perspective. Because I have found, and you may have found, that anytime you see something and your interpretation of a quote or what somebody else is saying, and what your take was in a say example, a room, an event that had just happened, sometimes you two people come out with totally different outlooks on that. So my hope is that we take a look at these quotes as we go along. Like I said, there's going to be interviews coming along. There's going to be guests on the show that have shared their experiences and how this has played out in their own lives. Because I don't want you to just take it from me. You don't know me. But the thing is when you see this, when you see that people are applying this process and this type of practice in their lives, and they're having amazing results, then you got to begin to wonder, is this right for me? You got to say that to yourself. Is this something that I should be doing? Is this the life that I want? And if it's not the life that you want, what could you change about that? And if you can't facilitate that change on your own, or you're having difficulty with that, you need an accountability partner. You need some way to, force yourself into that. Because change doesn't come super easy. Okay, change doesn't come super easy. There's a bunch of fear on the side of change. What happens if I do this? What's my wife going to say? What's my significant other going to say? What's my husband going to say? And what are my kids going to say? What about my coworkers? What are they all going to say? When I quit drinking, they asked me if I beat my wife. They asked me if I got DUI. All kinds of things they asked me. And it was difficult to tell them that I just didn't want to drink anymore. That was weird, right? It was weird to tell them that I didn't want to poison my body anymore, that I didn't want to, that I wanted to make decisions 100% consciously, that I didn't want to look back over my shoulder and be like, oh, you know what, I was drinking, you're right, it was okay to excuse me for that. I didn't want that to be an available option in my life. I like driving anytime I want to drive. Those were the reasons that I stopped drinking. And I don't care if you drink, but that's my life. But it was difficult to make that change because I had identified so long. I made beer, I made wine, I had a kegerator. I had all these things that were part of my identity that I had to let go of. I had to say, is this serving me anymore? Is this lifestyle serving me? Is this identity who I want to be? When I go, my children, when they talk about their father, do they want to say, hey, his favorite drink is beer? Do I want another bottle opener for Father's Day? Do I want beer shirts? No. So I didn't want any of that in my life anymore, and I made those changes. And people ask me questions like, why would you do that? What's happening to you? What's going on? You just got to say, I'm not in that place anymore. That's not who I am anymore. I've made some decisions that's not the life I want anymore. That's not for me. But it wasn't, when I say it wasn't easy, I just meant that I had to have those conversations. I had to make those decisions. I had to let go of some things. I had to change who I was. And our identity is precious to us. Right? Your identity is precious to you. You don't want to let go of these things that people know you for. Right? This is your whole life. You make one change, people are going to notice. They are going to notice. But that's kind of what led me all here to Prosperity Practice, and really stepping out on a limb, because this is a space that people are gonna be like, what are you doing? What is it? Even with fatherhood for the rest of us, what are you doing? What, a podcast on fatherhood? What is that? Right? But I'm doing it. I'm doing the Prosperity Practice. I think it's an amazing experience if you allow for it to happen. Right? There's a whole bunch of allowing and receiving talk and all that jazz. I hope that's given you a little bit of an introduction into why I'm here, what I feel like is the value of you being here. What you can expect to get is more quotes and more, more of who I am, more of the journey. Get other guests on here who can talk to these experiences so that you can understand that it's not just some yahoo, just one guy who's experiencing this out there, right? I still remember Meg, when my wife, she goes, if everybody could be doing it, they'd be doing it. If everybody could be living this life, they would be. And I said, there's a lot of people who are. Maybe not everybody, but there's a lot who are. And just because you're not aware of it, as soon as you become aware of it, you're like, everybody's doing this. Everybody's already doing this. It's crazy, right? It's like a blue car, right? Once you get a blue car, everybody's got a blue car. I've got a Honda Ridgeline pickup truck. And once I bought it, I'm like, look at all the Honda Ridgelines. There aren't that many, though. But when I see them, I see them. So I hope this has spoken to you a little bit. Like I said, if you've been on this path for a long time, if this is a conversation you want to have, you want to share, you're like, dude, this is my life. You're right on the money. Have a conversation. Let's get on. Let's have a conversation. Love to have you on. Love for you to share your story. Love for you to tell. We don't have to share your name either. Look, if it's something that you feel like, if this gets out there, they're gonna know, and I can't share, that's fine. We can change your name. Don't you worry about that. Let's have the conversation. If this has happened in your life, if this prosperity practice is something that's you've become aware of in your own life, let's have the conversation. Hop on. We'll have the interview. Anyways, guys, that has been it for the prosperity practice and the introduction to kind of who I am. I hope that's, like I said, I hope that's given you a little bit more insight as to what's happening here.